So across over just to...
Are we going to the cellar across?
Can we just... No, it doesn't matter. Do you want to just quickly look at this one? Because the drawings that he did building up to this show
Yes. And that's what they sometimes...
This was when the church was getting very flat.
Yes.
David Neave thought this could well have come from a Beverley house. And
to say, Sutton itself, I love the history of the village, because when you look at the old spelling of it, it was called Sutton, it was Sudtone, and it meant the South Farm or the South Settlement. And I always wondered what it was south of, because it's not south of Hull, it's sort of northeast of Hull. And it meant it was south of Warne, and Warne was the mother church over that way, and then beyond to Mews Abbey and all that area around there. So the focal point was sort of to the north of Sutton. And it's in Holderness, which again I love finding the origins of these words. Holderness meant a neck of land owned by an elder yeoman. So the elder yeoman is holder, and a ness is a neck of land. And it's very advantageous in Sutton because it's on one of the highest bits of Hull that you can be on. It's actually on a ridge. A friend of mine's a geologist, and he reckons it's probably from a terminal moraine, they call it, where the ice glaciers were retreating, and then they halted and raised the level of the land. And somebody told me this, if somebody tells me, I believe it, that the bottom of the church, St James here, is on the same level as the top of Hull Minster, Holy Trinity. So that's how high up this land is. So in future years, with climate change and everything, Sutton will be the best place to relocate to avoid all the flooding that's about to occur around the world. So it was very in the Domesday survey, it's listed, there was 18 families listed here, and it was mainly agricultural, all the land around here that got drained. A lot of the drainage was done by the monks of Mews Abbey. They dug out the ditches and the drains, or the dykes. There's still a name in Bransholme Area, which is Fordyke, and it meant the main dyke that they established. And as well as being drainage ditches, there were modes of transport. There were medieval canals, so they could bring the stone and the building materials and the produce from the River Hull into this area. I don't think they get enough credit, the monks of Mews Abbey, but you all think of canals being sort of industrial revolution, and in fact there were medieval canals with these, because it's the only way of travelling around this area really was through the water. So it established itself with, I reckon now, I think the last I saw the census, about 3,000 people live in the area around this. It started off with 18 and has risen to 3,000. And it is in the city. The boundary of the city got extended in 1929 to incorporate Sutton. So it is actually the village within the city, and it's a conservation area, quite rightly so as well. And a little quiz: if you want to win 50 quid off anybody, ask them how many medieval churches there are in Hull. And most people will say two. They'll say St Mary's in Lowgate and Hull Minster. But in fact, the Sutton here is also St James's, which is in the city boundary. So if you want to win 50 quid, that's a question. You can do a local history question there. And what I like about the village, it is conservation area, and it's the contrast in architecture. There's some really ancient. So it's nice to see. I always remember it being really run down and dilapidated. So it's been really good to see it restored. I remember Chris Ketchell, he always liked to put things into context. It was slightly wrong because it might be later than he thought at the time. But he said at the time King Charles I was not being allowed into Hull, something was living in this property. Yeah, and he put history into context, doesn't it? About, I'm a big fan of our blue plaques around the city. I do like them, and that's very interesting. This, I'll read it out. It says, during the Spanish Civil War, 36 to 39, this building, 30 Church Street, was home to 40 refugee children from the Basque region of northern Spain who were cared for by local volunteers. So there was during the Spanish Civil War there was an evacuation of youngsters. There was 40 here. The house then belongs to a very famous Sutton family, which were the Sewells. So they were housed here. And then in Pearson Park as well, there's one of the big houses around the park, and another group of refugee children were housed there. And they did form an association, Basque Children of 37 Association, and that plaque prevailed in 2000.
main one.
Probably the only British river with a city named after it. Only 25 miles long, and yet it has 40 tributaries. It has 17 bridges, but only 5 of them are not in Hull or Driffield. And it is England's most northerly chalk stream. It's a chalk-fed, relatively low sediment levels suspended in it, and therefore high clarity of water. Tributaries that I mentioned, some of them have lovely names. We have the Black Kell, the Blue Kell, the Driffield Trout Stream, Gosberdale Dyke, Norks Dyke, Meadow Stream, Rattling Water, Scurf Dyke, Spittlebeck and Waterfall. The valley itself, as I said, has wetland areas which are inundated by water either permanently or seasonally. Wetland areas are biologically diverse and can be used for purifying water and preventing floods. There are also areas of marsh, bog and carr. The valley was created where the springs flow from the eastern slope of the wolds onto silts and clay. To the north we have areas of carrland. Carrs are areas of scrub and low-growing plants that are never totally dry. Further south, salt marsh, and in some areas bog and peat are present under the modern soil levels. There were 29 medieval moat sites and 6 were thought to be monastic granges, so farms outside the monastery itself. Possible fishery at Fishholm Barn near the confluence of the River Hull and Frodingham Beck. We are coming alongside the canal here at Wansford. There are up to 7 granges belonging to Mews Abbey have been identified on aerial photographs.
That was found at Humbleton, or just near it, Humbleton anyway. I don't know why it's there. There's no context here. The context is everything archaeology, because you relate things to where they're found and it tells a story. This is a mystery, because when I'm talking about boulder, clay and chalk, everything, this area has been swept over by glaciers and things like that, and strictly speaking, anything as old as this, well, it started life somewhere way to the west or north. The replica of the Kirkman warrior, whose grave was found in 1987 on a big dig that had been progressing down the valley from Kirkman towards, from Garton towards Kirkman. And this is our recreation of the grave of the Kirkman warrior. This is from about 200 BC. He was a man of about 25. He died, so far as we can tell, of natural causes, disease or something or other, but he was not killed in battle because his bones showed no sign of trauma or defensive wounds like you would get from a battle situation. He was buried with food. Now, we thought originally he was buried with food for the afterlife, but actually it seems it's more the practice that when they died, there's a big bean feast around them.
So what, I've been doing this for about 6 hours a day or something like that.
And when they find stones in a row or stones with a hole in, it's indicative of the presence of a loom.
Another key thing about it is a complete scheme of decoration. With, I think down here we've got the Old Testament, Adam and Eve, and the creation of the world, and Adam and Eve. Up here we've got, I think, saints and apostles as appropriate in the East End, saints and New Testament.
Yes,
New
yeah,
Testament.
all the apostles there on the south side.
And everything you can see is decorated, apart from us as visitors. We've got the ceiling is decorated intricately. The tiling along on the floor and font cover, I would imagine the lights probably, and the elaborate reredos, marble reredos.
Yes, yeah, by Redfern, I think.
Anything else, Stephen, that you can...
Well, what I was going to say was this church is really very much one of a pair, and the other one is Kirkburn. This is slightly smaller, but each of them has basically a Norman structure, although there's more left of what the Normans built at Kirkburn than there is here. A lot of the structure here actually is 19th century.
Yes,
This is all a tidied up farmyard, isn't it?
I think so.
Oh yeah, there's a slip, but I think some are house markings. Just look at them. Do you know, I haven't seen many of those here.
And it was Francis Johnson's favourite church, and it's much inspired by his visits to Denmark when he was a student. There is no chancel, merely a spacious sanctuary, and St Margaret of Scotland, depicted in the east window, is also referred to in the wrought iron altar rail with the Marguerites, and in the pall over the altar, which was worked to my design by the ladies of the village. I regard St Margaret's as one of my two best churches, and certainly the best love I need. So I was then puzzled then to try and work out which the other one was. But I think it was probably the Roman Catholic Church in Scarborough. So some other details here, I don't know, I think perhaps they disappeared. When the photographs were taken from the book, the kneelers were all in place, a continuous kneeler. Yes, but the embroidery on those was designed by Francis and worked locally, wasn't it? Again incorporating marguerites and doves. And this font, it is a rather pleasing design. It's a sort of simplified Georgian design, but with quite a lot of vitality, and the dove resting on the top. And the stained glass is by Leonard Everts, who was the Master of Art at King's College, Newcastle-upon-Tyne. And in fact, he was there when I was a student at Newcastle University in the School of Art.
Because he was trying to reflect the fact that the sea is just over there and getting closer every day.
estate belonged to Lord Hotham. Pearson, you may know, did the Great Estate Church at South Dalton. And so that's obviously the link why Pearson was involved here at Humbleton. I'm not quite sure why he was working for Stan Sykes at Hilston, but presumably there was some kind of a connection there. I don't think Pearson worked with the Sykeses. I did find, funnily enough, the sort of thing that you find at the bottom of the church safe, a checkbook stub drawn on Pease's Bank, paying Mr. Pearson whatever it was, 50 guineas or something for his architectural services. Yes, so at that stage, at least part of the aisles were unroofed. It obviously was in quite a state. I was saying to one of the company when we were at one of the earlier churches, you know, we tend to be a bit critical of the Victorians and their restorations, but I think they were very often dealing with churches that were in a pretty desperate state.
Pyramid type hedges.
Oh, yes. Beautiful, some beautiful topiary there.
Well, he gave the land, this